What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast, a video game show. I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to you as well. How are you this fine morning?
I feel perfectly fine, but eagle-eared listeners, which is a phrase that people definitely say that. I guess maybe rabbit-eared listeners?
That works too.
Anyways, whatever. We'll notice that I sound a little stuffed up. That's because I have a very slight cold.
We got these, it's either that or these Texas
it's
allergies
mold.
right now.
Yeah,
there's a lot of mold going on.
I don't know what's going on, but so if I sound kind of weird, that's why. It's not the mics, it's me.
I'm just over here distorting the audio. You sound like Darth Vader in the final episode.
That would
you don't even know.
Pretty cool.
People are like, stuffed up, Mogan, I don't think that's the source of your problems
Something
here.
more seems to be the cause.
But man, it feels good to be back here. It's
been a while.
We've been a bit again. I know we're saying that a lot lately,
but that's because
still.
Jerrett got the Rona, and then I got the Rona.
Yeah,
so
it's run its course through us though.
Yeah, I'm already done with it by like quite a while now. So I would say fully
handled it okay.
Yeah, handled it okay.
Yeah,
did
not
just
too bad.
fine. Had to sleep a lot.
So did I.
Yeah, very tired.
It knocked me
but
out so much.
I believe I'm done with the worst of it.
Nice, good. Well, we're through it. It's run its course through us now, so hopefully we don't get it ever again. Thumbs up for that. And we'll be able to keep giving you this great, delicious video game content that we like to bring here on Team Chat Podcast. And you can listen to those episodes on Thursday mornings when they release on podcast services around the World Wide Web, as well as over on our YouTube, where you can watch each and every episode because we got a video version over there. You can find us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can join our Discord server where you can have a lot of great conversations with us when we're not here recording the show. And you can also head over to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. And in return, we'll give you cool perks like getting the episodes early before the general Tuesday release, access to a Thursday release, access to a private channel on our Discord, the Rogues Gallery, and a lot of extra bits of extra stuff along the way. But you know what? There's some cool people who did that, such as Super Saiyan Ace, Elise F, Zach S, Mariah, Susan M, James K, Ben W, Michael B, Andrew M, Michael S, and Brandon W. Thank you so much for supporting the show. But if you can't support us over on Patreon, that is no big deal at all. We totally understand. And there are a lot of great free ways that you can support the show, such as subscribing wherever you listen to or watch the show. If you're over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, slap that bell notification, all that fun stuff that they tell you to do. And but you could also write us reviews, tell your friends, all that great stuff gets the good word of Team Chat Podcast out there to the masses. And for that, we are eternally grateful, and we love each of our listeners, viewers, and patrons alike. Heart emoji. I like that this became a thing and it stuck. You know, so it's nice.
Even without being across the power of the internet.
Right. We can no longer type the hearts into chat. We got to do it with our hands, and it works. I like it. It sticks around. But Mogan, since it has been a little bit since we've recorded, we've got a great episode for you guys coming up because we were giving our first impressions of the incredibly fun Cult of the Lamb.
Hell yes.
So we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But since it has been a few weeks since we've sat down behind the mics, since our last episode where we gave our great review of Stray with had Sam on as a guest. That was a very fun episode.
Meow.
So what have you been playing? Let's catch up a little bit before we jump into our review, because I feel like it's been a minute since we've actually really kind of talked too.
I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about it.
And stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it right now because we're just about to, but it's kind of almost a blessing that I got the Rona because I picked up Cult of the Lamb and then was immediately about to start a new job, which I did finally start the new job. But,
congratulations.
But right before my first day, the Rona got me. So I had to call him and be like, hey, I actually can't start tomorrow. Oops.
And they were thankfully cool with that?
They were perfectly fine with it. They were like, oh yeah, don't come here.
Good.
Keep your Rona to yourself. So we pushed back my start date by a week, which just gave me a week, around home doing absolutely nothing other than being sick and tired.
Right.
Which is the perfect setup for long gaming sessions.
Absolutely.
So
got a lot of flat butt hours.
Oh yeah, and I got a lot of. That's really when I knocked out the vast majority of my Cult of the Lamb hours so far. But in addition to that, we really haven't gotten to talk about it on the show yet. But I'm really looking for. I'll probably be able to do a full review relatively soon. I'm still making my way through Neon White.
Oh, yeah.
And it is still such a fun, cool game. Again, I don't want to talk too much about it now because I want to save all of that juice for the end. But Neon White rules. And if you were kind of on the fence about whether or not to give it a try, my recommendation, don't look anything up about it. Just go straight in there and have a crazy, wild, fun time because you're gonna have a blast with it. Neon White is a very fun game.
Quick question about it. do you think there's any chance I would like it?
Maybe.
Maybe? Okay.
Because I think that you won't like the like dialogue interludes. I think you'll find those not to your taste just because they're very anime.
Sure.
Some people might even call them a little bit #cringe. I don't think so because I watch a ton of anime. So it's like, yeah, checks out. All of this makes perfect sense to me. But the gameplay itself, I think you would find quite fun.
Okay, cool.
So I should probably just bring you my Switch one of these days and let you play some of it because I feel like the sort of wild actiony speedrunning aspects of it you would probably really enjoy.
Nice.
So it's a very strange game, and I can't imagine how they even thought up the concept in the first place, but it is executed incredibly well.
Nice.
So keep your eyes out for that interview to come probably within the next couple of weeks or so.
Very cool, very cool. What have I been playing lately? A lot of Cult of the Lamb. Still a lot of Apex. Can't quit playing that. Been playing a lot of that with Cody, Michael, and stuff like that. Let's see what else. Oh, still making my way through the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
Oh yeah, I forgot
That's
you
been
picked
fun.
that up.
I'm going in release order of the movies since it has each one broken down in episodes. I'm
Gotcha.
in episode 2 right now. Maybe only have like a couple of missions left in it.
So that's not the one. Is that the one? Is that the Clone Wars?
Yes, Attack of the Clones.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Attack of the Clones.
So doing that one, so I only have I'm like halfway through the game then, I guess, based on episode number and where I'm at in this.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot to do in it that I haven't really gotten into because as you play the campaign and travel to different areas in the galaxy, you find these different planets, areas in space to explore, tons of missions and side quests for you to do. Well, side quests mainly, not the main mission stuff. But I haven't really explored all that stuff because I am really just kind of like shooting through to get the story done and everything. This is my time in between huge games.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to get through a couple of these smaller ones. And even though I see that there's a ton I can do in Lego Star Wars, I'm kind of like, I'm here for the story. I'll come back and like fill in whenever I feel like I need. Like it is I got 15 minutes to go like around and get a couple collectibles and different stuff like that. It's great for that. But I was actually talking with my buddy Michael yesterday, and I was telling him how it's fun and everything, but it is interesting how it definitely gears itself towards wanting you to do more of the free play exploration stuff rather than straight line the missions, because there is so much of it to get you to the various parts of the movie. Like you do jump to different planets, systems, what have you, but you sometimes will only go there for like a quick cutscene and then turn around and go to somewhere else.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
So like, yeah, if you're just doing the story like I'm doing, it is kind of a weird flow to the game because you go through, you maybe will do like travel to a place, cutscene, travel to somewhere else, cutscene, then you do like a little mission. It's kind of weird, but in between each mission, you can still do these like, it does give you the chance to automatically, you're in like the free play way and you can like, so you're not like stuck in it and have to exit out to the main menu. It's just like, but you have the choice in the free play map to go to a spot is where the next story mission starts. So it's kind of interesting how it's like normally I feel like if you're like going straight through a game trying to do the mission, it feels very like a smooth process. And it's interesting how this one feels more like, no, you're really here to do all the like side exploration stuff.
I see.
The story thing is like the thing that just kind of like, it packages it nicely.
I guess that's because from their perspective, they're like, everybody's seen the movies.
Yeah.
Nobody bought this game that hasn't seen all of the movies, presumably. So they're like, why would you want to play through the stories? You've seen it already. Get in there and have some more fun.
Exactly. And I mean, the whole point of that too is you're going out there to collect studs to be able to unlock your characters, unlock your ships, all that different stuff, which I will say, when I have messed around in the free play stuff, I did, of course, already unlock Boba Fett's minifigure.
Of course.
And flying around as minifigure Boba Fett blasting stuff is pretty damn fun.
Pretty
so
cool.
I can see the appeal, and I will go back and do all that kind of stuff, but there's not like, I definitely don't feel the need to like try to platinum that game by any stretch. So it's just going to be a fun one to go back to and everything like that. So
at some point, speaking of platinuming, I need to just look up like all of the other remaining trophies that I haven't gotten in Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
Just to see if it's even something that I'm interested in.
I think you could do it, especially if you think you'll go back for the DLC and stuff like that, or if you still go back to derp around in it. I think you should.
Is one of the trophies the whole beat it on hard mode thing?
No.
Okay, so that's always like the blocker that I have.
It does not require a replay of the game.
Gotcha. So in that case, I can probably just, I assume there are ones just related to specific, kill X amount of, I don't know, slaughter spines or...
I know there are ones like that. You have to kill every type of machine. There's one
I did already get that trophy.
Okay, you did do that one.
I got that one.
Scan, then you probably got, excuse me. You did probably then get the scan each machine then too.
Presumably so. I mean, I had to scan every creature just because I needed the help with their weak points every
Right.
time. So unless I just happened to miss
There's
one.
only one that I think you potentially could miss.
Ooh, just tell me which one it is.
the final boss.
I scanned her.
Okay, then you're good.
I did. I was
Okay.
like, oh God. That's
Yeah.
how I found out that she was weak to poison.
Yeah.
What's it
So
called?
the
Acid, not poison.
Yeah. So that's that. As long as you get that one, that's I think the only one
Gotcha.
that's like locked to a mission that you could potentially miss.
Oh, I
so a little
see.
tidbit for you out there,
Yeah,
kids.
that's good to know.
But
good
but
thing
yeah.
I scanned her because then I
Right?
would have had to replay the game.
I thought at first it was the slaughter spine in Gemini. In the Gemini Cauldron, that like because that one was like a specific one, like an Apex one or something, I think. So I was like, oh, maybe that's the one that. But then when it got to the final mission, I was like,
Yeah,
I
okay.
understand now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think you should. It's still my plan to as well, but I'm probably gonna wait till there's DLC, like a reason to go back to it, because again, I am trying to get through a couple shorter things now before I can jump to my next big game. Which I would like to be able to get into. I don't know what that will necessarily be yet, but I want to get into it before Ragnarok comes along.
Oh, of course. Actually, I was looking at our little figures here of Travis and
Changes again.
what's the
Kratos?
Kratos. I just couldn't think of his name. Trevor and Kratos. Remind me, and this is a spoiler from the previous
Sure.
game. Remind me, is Trevor actually Kratos' son?
Yes,
Okay, he is.
he is, and we know that from the beginning.
Gotcha.
It's his again game that came out in 2018. It's his true identity.
Gotcha.
That's the secret.
Okay, so in my mind, I was like, is his true identity, air quotes, his real father? Like I had gotten it confused in my mind.
It's Atreus' actual identity.
His name is Trevor, but okay.
Get it right. It's Trevor. I'll let it slide
Come
this
on.
one time.
Jeez.
Oh man, but yeah, that's pretty cool and stuff like that.
Well, my next big game is coming out soon.
Oh, what is it?
So I need to finish Cult of the
done. You were
Lamb,
just
and I
telling
need
me
to
that.
finish Neon White so that I can blast into Splatoon 3.
Blast into it like that.
Just guns. Give me my splatter
Oh
shot.
yeah, our thing's way
I'm
up
just
there. I don't know
kidding.
if we can
Don't
see
do
it.
it. Yeah, don't get it off the
It'll make
wall.
everything fall off the wall.
But I can't wait for Splatoon 3. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait. Like all of my various old Splatoon communities are already getting a boost in revival of being like, yes, we can play again.
That's fun.
I'm just really interested to see how it feels to play, and I don't mean mechanically, I mean like the meta.
Yeah.
Because one of my bigger complaints about Splatoon 2 was always that it felt more try-hardy than Splatoon 1 did for me. Like Splat 1 felt way casual to me, which I'm totally on board with. Splat 2 felt a lot more competitive, and I was like, ooh, I don't love this. So Splat 3, I'm interested to see kind of where it lands in that, okay, how good do you actually have to be to have a good
casuals
time?
play in this and still have fun?
Exactly. I mean, they always can, and that's always been the case because there is always like a little built-in story mode, and there's just obviously regular turf war. But even then, sometimes somebody's
out
getting
there.
boofed at.
Yeah.
Boof.
Sounds like somebody's got bass playing or something out there.
Oh God, she's
Birdie,
getting them.
no ma'am.
Good girl.
Okay, we're good.
Anyways, so yeah,
Touch down the guard dog.
very excited for Splatoon 3. Can't wait for it to come out. It comes out on September 9th for anybody that wasn't sure. So
Very
Splat
cool.
3, get on it.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I think Ragnarok is my next big one that I'm like looking forward to coming out this year. I was excited about the new Saints Row, but then it came out and its reviews were not great. And
Or they actually didn't even realize it was already out.
yeah, well, that was another thing that surprised me about it too. Like it was like a day before launch, and I suddenly started seeing a whole bunch of tweets being like, "Hey, Saints Row comes out tomorrow," and I was like, "What?" But yeah, apparently it started hitting its reviews, and it was like it got like 2s in some places, 4 like out of 5s. I will say.
Still,
But
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I got some 2s. Like out of 10 scales that I saw, it was hitting like 6, 7s average, and I was just kind of like,
good.
yeah, that's rough. Like just said that apparently it's just the writing's not all there is totally what they were saying. But my big thing that kind of like set me being like, this might not be in a good place is that I think it was that non E3 this year. Whatever, just the showcase season, let's call it that.
That's a good.
And the
That's
last-
a good phrase for it.
Right?
Showcase season.
I
I like that.
I like that. Trademarked.
Yeah,
Team Chat
trademarked.
Podcast. 2022. But during showcase season, it was the last thing I saw of it. The only thing they showed, it was like a 3-minute video showing off how cool their character creator
Yeah,
was.
that is a little
And I was
strange.
like, okay, cool. I get that that's really cool that you want to show this off, but also this is like the last showcase you're going to have before it launches, and you're just telling me about the character creator. That seems worrisome.
I mean, is part of the problem that people feel that the gameplay just like isn't very fun?
I think some
Or
of
is
that,
it that
like,
it's,
it doesn't really do
buggy?
anything new. It is buggy. I did
it
see
is
some
buggy.
definite stuff where like somebody shot an enemy and the enemy character model just like T-posed and then like stretched out into space or something.
Okay,
like
well,
that.
that's hilarious,
Some stuff
but-
like that. Like sure, there's some things like that going on too. But yeah, I think it just has some game-breaking bugs that I've seen, like saves not glitching or something like that. Yeah, some writing things that are just issues. It just like, and apparently they really toned down the over the topness that the Saints Row series is known for.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
That's like the whole point.
I know. I want to be able to beat up people on the street with
God.
a 3-foot purple dildo bat.
Everybody does.
Right?
That's why they're playing Saints Row.
Exactly. So, we'll see. But anyway, got Ragnarok, so I just got to fill my time with some smaller games. I might start Cyberpunk, though. I'm not going to lie in between.
Jared,
My whole idea from that is like, I just want to see if I could even get into it again. If I can't get into it again, I'm definitely not going to force it and I'll cut my losses and move on. But I kind of feel like I want to see.
That sounds like a good
But I might honestly, though, finish Mass Effect first because I really need to do that.
Speaking of games in the backlog that we still definitely need to play,
Mm-hmm.
this would have been 2 years ago now. I have still not even started Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time.
Come on.
I know, and supposedly it's a great game.
I'm pretty sure I just got it free on PS Plus.
Yeah, and like every time I look at it, like on my little shelf, because I have it in physical
Yeah.
copy, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to play that, and I just still have not played it.
I
But
think I have the Insane Trilogy, the remaster of 1, 2, and 3,
yeah.
and I haven't touched that.
well, I played all of those games back in the day. That's not true. I never played the third one.
Mm-hmm.
But the first and second games I did play quite a bit of. Didn't finish either of them because that was the era of not being good at games.
Sure.
But very fond memories still. But Crash 4, I have no reason that I haven't played it yet. I just need to do it.
A lot of games on my
Yep.
backlog that I want to do that same thing for. So eventually we'll get to it one
Someday.
of these days.
That's a hashtag someday.
It is. But you know what's not a hashtag someday?
Gold Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb. Because
Cult
we have been
of the
playing
Lamb.
it since it came out.
Or Coddle for short.
Coddle. We'll just call it that. That'll make it a lot easier. We can coddle our followers in Cult of the Lamb. But yes, we've been playing Cult of the Lamb by Massive Monster, an Australian developer, published by our Austin's own Devolver Digital. And I gotta say, Mogan,
Hell
this game
yes.
fits right in perfectly with Devolver Digital's catalog.
I don't know why I didn't realize that Devolver Digital was based in Austin.
Yeah.
I learned that fact like a couple of weeks ago, and I was
Oh,
like,
really?
wait,
For the
what?
first time?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, I didn't know they were here.
I think I figured it out when I went to RTX one year.
Oh,
And then they like
okay.
obviously have a very big presence here.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, hey, this is cool. And then like I saw somewhere that they were here. And I was like, no shit. That's really cool.
That is very cool. But yes, you're absolutely right. Cult of the Lamb thematically fits perfectly into Devolver's broader publishing brand.
Yes.
Like I can see how when the dev team was pitching this to a publisher, how Devolver was like, yes,
Give it to us,
give us
please."
your game.
For those of you who do not know, Cult of the Lamb, you play as a lamb who very literally at the beginning of this game, this is not spoiler, this is literally the first cutscene, is being led to slaughter.
You are a sacrificial lamb,
Yes.
literally.
And once you are killed, you are then revived by the one who waits, who wants you to start a cult in their name in return for eternal life.
Exactly.
But also you have to destroy all other followers of other religions that are in the area, the people who were there at the beginning trying to kill you. So that's immediately sets this up. And you're saying to yourself, my God, that sounds pretty dark. And because obviously the whole thing of this is that it totally embraces the, I guess you could run your cult either like in a friendly way or a bad way, but like it kind of pushes you to be like, be a bad cult leader. You won't tell anyone.
Not a bad cult leader, because the things that you're doing as a cult leader actually make you a very successful cult leader. It's more like be a bad person.
Be a bad person. Make some bad moral choices.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about like, hey, embrace your moral corruption.
Which I am actually letting myself really do with this game.
Oh my gosh, Jerrett.
Any other game that has like a morality thing, like Red Dead 2 or whatever, I cannot bring myself to be the bad guy in those games as much as I try. This one, I'm having no problem.
I mean, I can't even kill my Pikmin, so you know how I am about
Right.
that. But I will say I'm playing it like I'm in the moral gray area.
Yeah.
Is how I haven't managed to quite get super evil about it. I'm sort of skirting that line.
I'm playing super evil, but making my followers like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all about the mind games.
We'll
with
talk
me.
more about
We will.
how you accomplish that.
Exactly.
But the gameplay of Cult of the Lamb is a really interesting mix of two very disparate genres.
Yes.
Sim games, specifically like I guess it would fall into the category of life life sim,
Yeah.
sort of a la Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, where you're building a town. There's typically some farming elements involved in that. And in the case of Cult of the Lamb, there's a lot of relationship building with the members of your cult. So that's all the life sim stuff. But complementing that in a very interesting way is this roguelike element, where it's this action roguelike sort of dungeon crawling element where you basically go on these crusades is what the game calls them.
Right.
So whenever you need resources for your cult, especially in the early days, like you need gold, you need bones, you need pumpkins, wood, stone. You need basic things to build your cult up. The way that you get those is by going on these crusades into, what do they call them? Like the lands of the old faith?
Yes.
I don't think that's the actual title. But there's basically, so the people who sacrificed you in the first place are followers of the 4 bishops of the old faith.
Right.
And there's Calamar,
Leshy.
Hecate.
Hecate.
Yeah, Hecate. And then like the 4th one that I
am blanking on that one.
Ashura? Shimura.
Yes.
I think it's Shimura. But the point being that there are these 4 other gods, basically, these deities, and they each have their own little realm, and you slowly unlock those realms as you continue throughout the game. And every time you go on a crusade, you are picking one of the 4 realms to go crusade through. And what that amounts to is it's basically a little dungeon. So you go from room to room in these lands of the old faith, basically just slaughtering enemies right, left, and center with a variety of very fun weapons.
Very fun. And these dungeons are all procedurally generated as well, so they're never the same.
They change every time.
Very standard roguelike fare. But change every time. Weapons you get at the beginning are change every time. But then also, while you're going out in these lands doing these crusades, you also will come across various merchants along the way, one of which is one of my favorite parts. Actually, I don't want to quite get into that just yet.
Okay.
We'll kind of like save getting into the nitty-gritty of all these things a little bit later. But all of this to say, like you're like this cult leader, you're tending to your followers, you're making them do things for you, giving them blessings. Then you're going off and leaving on these crusades to gather resources, defeat the followers of the old faiths, and to ultimately, I believe, the point of the game being to defeat all the other bishops of the old faiths. But again, you're saying to yourself, this sounds very dark, and it sounds like a very just like a dark, evil, somewhat game, you may say, but it is, sure, but it's also abstracted against the cutest art style.
Oh my God, it's so
that you
cute.
would ever see. Saturday morning cartoon.
For real.
And what is it? Adventures of Gumball kind of is like it sticks out in my head, kind of like that.
I'm surprised you thought of Gumball.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you knew what Gumball was.
I know things.
Do you like Gumball?
You know what? I'll tell you. The only thing we have this weird, just based on the time we go, the last few times I go into Kirby Lane, every time I'm there, they're playing Gumball on the TVs. And I'm just like a moth to a light. I can't not look at a TV if I'm in a place where it is.
You know what?
I've seen a lot of Gumball on mute.
That is so
in
weird.
Lane Cafe.
I actually do really like Gumball. You know, I don't get regular TV, so I can't really watch it anymore. But every time I go to my parents' house and there's nothing else on but Gumball is on, I'm like, oh, thank God,
this is what I'll watch.
A decent cartoon. But that's a fascinating. I never would have made that link in my mind of like, what do I think the art style of Cult of the Lamb is like? Gumball?
I was more just like trying to think of like, because it is kind of, it's not quite the same. Like there is a difference to it.
But I see why you would have made that parallel. Exactly. Like both the big eyes and the fact that obviously it's 2D animation. But even with that being said, a lot of the times 2D animation can have a very 3D look to it.
Yeah.
But Gumball and Cult of the Lamb both have where that's really not the case. Like it really looks like you're looking at a flat cardboard cutout a lot of the time.
Yeah. And it's that look, like the cardboard cutout kind of look to it. So it's very fun. All your villagers are like cute little woodland creatures.
They're so cute. They get all kinds of different forms that you can have for them. And I think that I'm not sure if it's still the case, but if you bought the game on launch day.
I think it's already gone.
Oh, okay. Well, too bad for you suckers then. But if you bought the game on launch day, you got a special follower form that is just, it's absolutely just little Cthulhu's.
Yeah.
And there's usually 3 variants of each form. So for example, if you unlock like a deer form for your followers, the 3 variants of that might be a deer with really big antlers, a deer with really small antlers, and then a deer with big antlers but like face paint markings.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, you can change the name of all of your followers. You can change their coloration as well. So like if you wanted to get all deer followers and have them all be green, you can, because as soon as you're indoctrinating a new member into your cult, you basically go talk to them and they pledge their devotion to you, and that's when you get to decide, what am I going to name this person? What's their coloration going to be? And then you hit OK and they join your cult.
Yeah.
All of your followers also have a suite of attributes. I think the max they can have is like 3 that are already ascribed to them when they join your cult, and they're things like, this follower is a natural skeptic, so they'll be slower to develop devotion towards you.
Right.
Or this follower is a, what is it, coprophiliac?
Yes.
This follower is a coprophiliac, so every time this follower gets sick, their devotion to you actually rises.
Right.
Or it's like, this follower is terrified of death. Every time a cult member dies or you sacrifice someone, they're going to lose 10 faith.
Right.
So these different elements to your followers are really what kind of makes balancing your cult. I keep wanting to say farm because I'm so accustomed to Stardew
I know.
Valley.
It's different.
No,
Get it
it's
out.
different.
It's a cult now.
We'll call it a commune. These different disparate factors are what make managing your commune a little bit interesting, because the other big factor that we kind of glossed over is the health of your cult is dictated by how much faith your followers have in you. And that's reflected real time in a meter in the top left corner. So
That empties very quickly.
That empties quickly. You're absolutely right. So like if a follower dies, for example, the other members of your cult, if they see that dead body, they're going to become sad and also grossed out, and they'll puke all over the place.
Yeah.
And then that affects like the hygiene of your cult. So then faith goes down. So you have to constantly be doing things to keep the faith in your cult up. For example, by every time there's a day-night cycle. So every time a new day begins, you unlock the ability to do another sermon. You know, you're a cult leader.
Right.
So
Gotta
you
teach.
gather everybody up in the temple and you give a sermon, and that raises the entire cult's faith. That's also where you do rituals. So things like sacrificing followers, throwing a feast, doing a bonfire dance, very typical cult-like stuff. All of that will raise, or in some cases reduce, the amount of faith the cult has in you, and keeping that at least minimum midway full to all the way full is really the priority, because as soon as your cult falls below that midway mark and people start losing faith in you, you can get dissenters.
Have you had any?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. We'll talk about this more when we talk about bugs.
Yeah.
But dissenters are basically followers that decide they don't agree with you anymore. So they'll get a little megaphone out and they'll start speaking out against you. And you can either kill them, you can kill them, you can try to reform them. And to help reform them faster, you can basically put them in jail.
Yeah.
And then re-educate them is what the game calls it.
I know it. I love it. And I love that is like the terminology they use, like re-educate,
yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Not brainwashing.
No,
Re-educate.
re-education. You got to indoctrinate first, and then you re-educate. But yeah, you can pick up these followers from your crusades. You'll sometimes can rescue them from various merchants or other cult rituals that you stumble across during your crusades, and you bring them back into your cult. I will say, it was just the first time when I first started playing, it still does. The voices of the followers crack me.
They are so funny. I totally
because
agree.
it's like a normal, what you would say, like human voice, but more like whimsical in a way, and like very like, yes, hello, so like I'm worshiping here, very reverence.
Yeah.
But it's offset to like when they're begging for their life or scared, so they're like sitting there like shaking in a fetal position because they're scared you're going to kill them before you indoctrinate them, and they're like, please spare me. But the voice is like, I don't know. I can't do it.
It's kind of like
just
Simlish.
yeah.
So anybody that's played The Sims and knows that they have this nonsensical way of speaking that isn't actually language, that's what the followers sound like. So yeah, they're talking, but that's all through text, your text boxes, because their actual language is just like this, blah, 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 and it's really cute.
But it's really cute because it is like said in these like soft whisper tones, and it just, for whatever reason, paired with how they look and like their fear, just makes me, I don't know, it's making me laugh. Like everything
Jerrett,
about it.
You've got the makings of a fine
I know.
cult
I
leader.
played. This is the wrong game for me. It's letting me just
it's bringing out your dark side.
It really is, and I shouldn't be playing it. But no, it is just, it's those little touches though about it that just like it make you do feel like I'm taking advantage of you, but also I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I don't feel bad about it.
And also, I need more. Like, practically speaking, I need more laborers for my mines, so I'm going to need you to get on in here. Just come on in here, join the cult, and I'll set you to work in the mines.
Which is the thing that you can do to make your commune grow and be bigger is
Exactly.
that you put your followers to work doing various tasks around the camp, such as chopping trees, mining rocks. So far yet, I haven't been able to get them to clean up poop or anything like that.
Oh, you will eventually
do
unlock
eventually?
an ability
Okay.
like that.
And then or to tend to the gardens and the farm plots and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different stuff that you can have them do. But then you can. It's really funny. They'll come up to you sometimes too with quests for you to be able to complete. Sometimes they can be, hey, looks a little dingy around here. Maybe we can clean up, or hey, what if you build us some decorations or something like that? My favorite is straight up when somebody comes to me and be like, it was one of the early follower missions that I had, and they were basically like, hey, it'd be really funny if you made this other follower eat a bowl of poop.
I know, it's so funny. So
and you can collect their poop from the ground because
sure
they just
can.
shit everywhere.
Because initially you don't have any facilities.
Right.
You're basically just in
You're
an
just in a
empty field, and all you've got is a sweet ass temple, and then your big I don't know what you would call
altar?
altar. Yes,
Yeah.
like a big altar statue to you.
Yeah.
And that's where your worshipers basically come and pray to you and build devotion.
Mm-hmm.
And devotion is basically it's almost like mana that you can collect from your followers from these altars and these temples. And devotion is how you unlock additional things on what is essentially your cult's skill tree.
Right.
So for example, when you're at the lowest level, the only things that you're really working towards are being able to unlock beds, being able to unlock body pits, because you got to dig some graves when people die.
They have a way of doing that. Sometimes mysteriously, sometimes due to natural causes. Can't say which.
Sometimes due to unnatural causes, but it was intentional.
Right.
So the way that you upgrade your cult is by having more followers to more quickly build devotion to you, which you then collect and essentially spend as a resource.
Right. Because you collect it through their prayers that they offer at the altar. You also collect it through their loyalty after you preach a sermon.
Yep.
And then once you collect their devotion also by doing rituals and things like that, which you unlock by being able to, when you raise the loyalty of your followers, you can go up to them and either talk to them, give them a blessing and different stuff, which will raise each follower's individual level of loyalty to you. And then when you can do that, then I lost where I was going with that. But basically, and you can do that by giving them gifts, giving them a blessing, different things like that, which is then funny because then that changes also their quest that they will come to you and give. I literally just had a follower come to me earlier when I was playing today who said, I've given everything to you and now I'd like to give my life. Please sacrifice me in a ritual. I'm like, oh, dark, but okay. Because here's what I did. Because when you raise their loyalty, they give you chunks of a commandment stone, which you can then, after you collect three of those, you can then enact a new doctrine into your cult that gives you either various buffs or rewards in some way, which is how what I was saying earlier when I said I've got it set up where I sacrifice people, and through choosing various doctrines, I sacrifice someone in a ritual and I gain 25 faith.
Yeah.
And so it's really good to do if you're really I did definitely, my first sacrifice was a dissenter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just
get rid of them. Get them out of here. I totally forgot about doctrines because by this point, I have actually unlocked all of the available doctrines.
I was going to say, what day are you on? I think you're farther ahead than I am.
I'm very far in terms of days. I think I'm on day 130 or something like that.
Oh yeah, you're way ahead of me.
But I'm taking the dungeon runs basically really slow.
I am too.
I've only defeated 2 of the bishops. So I've got 2 more bishops to go. One of which I could actually go and try to take down today. I've gotten far enough in that dungeon to be able to take on the final boss. The other one I've barely poked around in. So I'm already quite a bit further than you in terms of just sheer day count.
Yeah, I'm only day 42.
But I actually don't have that many cultists. I like to keep my cult manageable by my standards because I don't want to spend all of my time looking after my followers.
Right.
And obviously the more cult members you have, the more mouths to feed. You have to feed these people.
Yeah.
So
and they get hungry really quick too.
They get hungry so
very
fast. They're so demanding. So I hover between 17 to 20 cultists, depending on how many have reached old age and how many I've sacrificed.
I know. I'm still trying to find that balance. I think I only have, like I said, I'm day 42, and same thing. I'm spending more time building my commune and followers and stuff like that. I'm halfway through the second bishop right now.
Oh, okay. So you're in a neuro right now.
And I got held up there for quite a bit. For some, like I blazed through Darkwood, the first area, pretty quick, and was like feeling good about myself. Then the difficulty just upped itself really good in the second area, and I kept getting stomped.
Definitely. So each of the subsequent dungeons that you essentially unlock, they do scale up in difficulty.
Yeah.
But at the same time, through doctrine and through managing your cult properly, you also unlock additional, basically, dungeon buffs for yourself. So as you progress, some of the things that you might get along the way are, okay, well, you've unlocked X level by managing your cult properly. So now when you start a dungeon, your default starting weapons are going to be higher level than before.
Yep.
So the game does scale with you to an extent. And speaking of the weapons and the combat, I just kind of want to
we can jump back into more.
Circle back to that just a little bit, just because I feel like it's one of the areas where I'm either having a great time or a terrible time.
Yeah.
Depending on which weapons the game chooses to give you at the start. Because there are like maybe 5-ish weapon classes. There are daggers, swords, axes, gloves, gauntlets, not gloves.
Gauntlets?
Yeah, they're gauntlets, or worst of all, they're hammers.
Oh, I haven't had a hammer.
my
So far, I
God.
hate the gauntlets.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love the gauntlets.
I like the axe is my favorite.
The axe is my favorite, followed closely by gauntlets. I detest daggers because their range is so short. Oh my God. They're so fast, but you'd have to get right up on enemies to be able to attack them.
And that gets difficult because, again, we don't want to spoil like too much of what you will encounter and stuff like that, but there are some enemies, specifically in the second area, that are like these frogs.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and they will just jump all over the place. They're so hard to pin down.
Hard.
But dude, even as far
So when you got like a little dagger that you got to be right up close,
it is
torture
the
trying to
worst.
kill those guys.
You need range, and then but to help you balance out whatever you're doing with your melee attacks, you also have a given magical ability.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is something whenever you start a dungeon, the game assigns you, okay, this is your starting melee weapon, this is your starting magical weapon.
Right.
And those are usually things like area of effect, maybe they blast all of the enemies back and maybe stun them, or it's something like, all right, hold down X and aim to shoot a big projectile that explodes when it hits something, et cetera, et cetera. So you're supposed to balance the two of those together to, defeat all of the enemies. But just depending on the weapon you get at the start, sometimes runs go really, really poorly.
And that's what started happening to me.
Oh, yeah.
Just started hitting a lot of poor runs.
When a run's go, because again, you can fail crusades because you do have health. So if you start a crusade and you don't beat the final boss of that crusade, that means you have failed the crusade. And when you come back to your cult, your followers are going to lose faith in you because they're like, oh, our cult leader is weak. Look, they have failed the dungeon.
It's only like 5 though, so it's not like a huge amount, which is nice.
I think it's 10.
Oh, does it increase?
Oh, I don't know.
It might increase again because
Maybe
I think it only loses 5 for me right now. But maybe after you get into later days, that like ups itself or something. I will say though, this is kind of after you defeat each bishop, you do get to like choose an ability.
Yes.
Which one of those after you beat the first bishop did you choose?
Ability. Oh, you mean like the crowns and the fleeces?
I think so. The fleece, no, not fleeces, because like you have to collect fleeces, which is another upgrade ability.
Yeah,
you collect those through like a quest. After you, I can't remember what it calls them, but after you defeat a bishop, it gives you like a reward for beating that bishop, and it gives you like 4 abilities to choose from. I chose the one that lets you teleport out.
Oh, you're right. It does.
Yeah.
Yes, I did pick the teleport out one
because
as well,
I started dying a lot, and I was like, "This is going to be a lot easier." Because I don't think there's a penalty for using it.
I don't think there. I'm not sure. I thought that you still lost a little bit of your resources.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. You might lose some resources, but you don't lose the faith of dying.
But it's not as much, yes.
I think.
And so when you fail a crusade, you do get to keep a portion of all of the stuff that you acquired during that crusade, but you lose like 25% of your rewards. So dying in a crusade is really bad, whereas escaping a crusade that isn't going well kind of lessens the effect of having to basically bail on that crusade. Right. So yes, you're right. That ability is very, very clutch. So omnipotence.
Yes.
If you're a new player and you're like, whoa, which of these abilities should I get? Go for omnipotence.
Yeah. For sure. Big tip there. But yeah, while you're going along in these crusades, you're hunting for resources, fighting enemies, you can also stumble across these various merchants. And one of whom is a tarot card reader, which is like the other big part of the crusades and your dungeon runs. is getting these tarot cards that will give you various buffs. But just like everything else in the game, it's random. You don't know what you're going to get. You can get extra health. You can get like an increase
Extra
to your
damage.
attack speed,
Yeah.
an increase to your damage. You can get like one that reveals the whole layout of the map, which has been very useful sometimes, especially
For sure.
if I can get that telescope card when I'm doing a bad run. Oh, that could sometimes help and
Oh,
save it.
yeah.
So you get that, and then a lot of other stuff, but it's all. I think you can then like in other areas because you can meet other merchants in different places you can travel to that aren't Crusades, where you can buy tarot cards, and I think that unlocks more cards for the random pool to draw from.
That is correct. Yes.
So it makes sense to go and like try to buy tarot cards whenever you find them. Some you can just like pick up and find in the Crusades. Others you can buy from merchants, but you will have this tarot card reader who will grant you these various boons along the way. There's also a weapons merchant where you can swap out some stuff. Again, random what he'll have in stock for you. There's also this like spider guy who like has followers caught in his net.
The spider guy.
I was like, I might be out of here, but then no, he's funny.
I love his very silly voice. He has one of the most unique voices, and he's always like, this one looks good. I might keep this one.
I do love the voices of like the
They're
tarot
so
card reader,
great.
the narrator,
Oh, yeah,
and stuff
they're
like that.
really cool.
It actually sounds like to me like they're speaking Geonosian, the like insect aliens from Attack of the Clones and stuff. It was just like these like clicks and pops and stuff like that. It like is kind of how their language sounds. And
It's
I was
a
like,
very cool sound.
It's very cool, but I was like, Geonosians here in this game? So yeah, but that just makes, I will say, one of the things that is drawing me to Cult of the Lamb so much is that I love that it's a roguelite, but I also love that it's the combination of the life sim too, because like we've talked about, and like it's still like hanging over my head like a dark cloud. I've
Hades.
yet to beat Hades. I complete a Hades run, and I will do a run of Hades, maybe two, and then I'm frustrated and stop because I haven't beat it yet, because that's all the game is.
Yes.
I like that the life sim part of Cult of the Lamb gives you a reprieve from feeling like, okay, I just have to run this
Absolutely.
dungeon again.
Yeah,
So
I completely agree.
that's really keeping me into it a lot more, I feel like. So I really, really like that aspect of it.
I do too. And it's really kind of, it's just a mental break.
Yeah.
If you go on a run, any given run in a dungeon, I mean, it gives you the time that you took to
pretty
do
quick.
the run. They're pretty quick. I think the longest run I've ever had was maybe like 15 minutes.
Yeah, same for me.
But more often than not, they're like 7 to 10 minutes. So most of these dungeon runs are actually pretty short unless you're choosing to extend them, which you will probably be able to do later. I don't think you can do that
I don't think
quite
I've got
yet.
to that point yet.
But they're pretty short, which means that you can come back to your cult. And there's also like a couple of little mini games on the side. So you don't have to constantly be in the battle action mindset. You can just hang out in your cult as long as you can.
Yeah.
And just spend your days there and do sermons and rituals and farm with your cult. And depending on how much you've built up your resources, you might be fairly self-sustaining.
You do have to, I think, eventually leave.
You do eventually have to
because,
because
like,
there's some things that you can only get from Crusades.
And you can also, like, sometimes there are follower quests that you can choose to do that'll be like, hey, some sickly followers from another place are coming over. Can we bring them into our cult? And you're like, yeah, sure. But eventually, like what we've talked about, your followers will get old and
Yes.
die.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
of old age. So you do eventually have to go do crusades.
Because you need more followers.
Because you have to get more followers.
Yeah. And,
So-
and there's like other people that have been basically about to be sacrificed by the other bishops of the old faith. So
Yeah.
as you're going through each of these dungeon runs, from area to area, and there's usually 4 areas in a dungeon, there's basically a little map that'll show up. And if you're familiar with the maps in Slay the Spire, they look very similar, but like on a much more macro scale, because the maps in Cult of the Lamb are not nearly as convoluted as the ones in Slay the Spire.
It's pretty
But
much
it'll-
like there's a room above, to the left,
Exactly.
right, or bottom.
And it'll give you just in icons a little gist of what you're going to get when you go to that next area. If it's a sword, it's just combat and probably a merchant that's going to be selling weapons. Or if there's one that looks like a little person, there's a follower on that path.
Right.
So if you really need things like, I need more lumber, I need specifically more stone, I need more food resources, I need more followers, those are always highlighted as the options on the map. So you know which paths you'll want to try to take to get XYZ thing that you need.
Right. So lots to do, honestly.
ton-
There's a ton of stuff.
The gameplay loop is very well crafted the way that they've done it.
Because it is like a checkbox of things you have to do every day, but it also doesn't feel like you're just ticking off checkboxes. again, like you're trying to level up your followers' loyalty. You're trying to level up your overall powers and abilities. You're trying to like make sure your commune's running cleanly and isn't dirty. Everyone's well fed. There's lots of stuff to manage and everything.
Absolutely.
And then plus you get same thing. If you get tired of running that, you get the reprieve. Go run a dungeon or two. Come back. And start again. It's a great loop.
It's a great loop.
Great feedback loop.
So the only thing that I want to talk about, well, not the only thing that I want to talk about.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Are we ready to go that? Because we've talked a lot of good.
Let's definitely jump into the cons because there absolutely are some. But before we get to the big one, which is the bugs,
right?
I actually, based on what we just talked about, I do want to talk about how now that I'm way later into the game in terms of how built up my cult is.
Sure.
I am noticing a big disconnect in pacing, essentially.
Oh.
So I'm at a point where I have unlocked every resource for my cult.
Okay.
I have unlocked every ability for my dungeon runs. I'm maxed out.
Sure.
Like I am maxed out across the board as far as the life sim elements go. So I'm at a point where my cult is really quite self-sustaining, which means that the life sim elements are not really as important for me as anymore.
Sounds like you do have to focus on the crusades.
Exactly. So now it's like, well, really kind of the only thing left for me to do are the dungeon runs and the bosses. So I feel like, essentially what I'm trying to get at is, I feel like your followers' devotion is too fast. Like basically I feel like I was able to get all of the resources way too easily, and I feel like it should have been slowed down a bit to better match the pace that I'm going at in the crusades.
True.
Now this might just be a matter of how I'm choosing to play the game, of like taking a more chill approach to the dungeons. I feel like other players may not have really run into this kind of problem. And if you're choosing to have not a lot of followers, like if you're keeping your cult at like 5 to 10 followers, you probably are building up devotion a lot slower.
Yeah.
But I think that that's not how most people will experience the game, because the game encourages you very heavily to keep getting more and more followers.
Right.
So I just feel like most people are going to be building up devotion to then spend on upgrades at a much faster pace than they can get through the dungeons.
Right.
So I'm hitting a bit of a disconnect right now just in terms of the pacing of the game.
Sure.
But I definitely don't think I don't think a lot of people will notice necessarily, and I think most people probably won't care.
Yeah.
But for me, it kind of is like a weird, like, oh, okay, well, I'm done. Like, part of me feels like I finished the game. I unlocked all of my cult, abilities. Other than the bishops, I'm done here.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of a weird spot to feel like you both are and are not finished with the game.
Yeah.
So I'm at a weird spot, but I think that might just be me. But
I can kind of see that happening with me though, because I do realize, like, even though I'm only day 41, I have already leveled up the various branches of like either my dungeon abilities or commune abilities and unlocks. I am like several levels in, and I am kind of like, wow, I did have that thought already too.
Like, I'm leveling up
This seems
fast.
fast. Yeah. Comparative again to what you're saying to where I am in the dungeons. Maybe they do expect you that like the optimal way to play is that you're doing a day, you run a dungeon, do a day, run a dungeon.
Yeah.
But maybe we're extending the commune parts a little more than we should be.
I mean,
but
at
still.
least compared to other life sims that we've both played, like Stardew Valley, in my case, Animal Crossing, and especially Cozy Grove.
Yeah.
Like, Cozy Grove progresses at a snail's pace by comparison.
Well, yeah, I would say Stardew does too. Like Stardew.
Yeah, Stardew is slow.
Especially in the beginning, there are days where like I finish the things I have to do by like 2 p.m.
And then there's nothing
game
else to
time,
do.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to bed.
Yeah.
But this one, like, you go through the days pretty quick.
Yeah, the days are fast. Like,
Yeah.
it is a fast-paced life sim. So if you're expecting the kind of game where you will be able to keep playing it forever, like an Animal Crossing, I really don't think this is that
I
kind
don't
of
think
game.
it is. I think it has a
No.
pretty definitive
Cult
end.
of the Lamb has a clear end to it, and you are supposed to get to that end and then be done with the game. I mean, you can artificially extend it and just keep going on runs, keep messing with your cult, but there's definitely going to be a point where you are finished with the game.
Yeah, for sure. Now, with all that being said, though, too, and we've alluded to it, and we've said a lot of good things that we love about this game already, but we do have to have some caveats that there are some serious work. Well, I will say a caveat to the caveat that they have released a patch that has fixed some of these issues that we've talked about, but it's stuff that we did still encounter while playing the first few hours of the game. But it did have its fair share of bugs and issues with
for
performance.
sure. Yeah.
We're both playing on Switch, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, yes. One of the things apparently that I didn't realize until later, but then has now been fixed by a patch, is that on Switch and console versions, not PC, it would limit the amount of followers who could come into a temple with you to 6.
Correct.
Which is a problem because it would usually pick it seemed to pick your original followers.
It also prioritizes elderly followers.
Okay.
So even if you get a follower later on who's already older and they like reach old age, they will still come into your temple every day for sermon.
Yeah. And so they come in there, but what that does, and you're like, why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because in the temple is where you choose very specific things. Like when you want to do a sacrificial ritual, you have to choose a follower. And sometimes if it's a follower who says, hey, sacrifice me, then you can't do that
if they don't come
into the temple.
Yeah.
So they did fix that. They did release that on patch, but that was a pretty big one because I think it also limits some other later game choices you have as well.
Yes, it does.
So now having that fixed, that frees up a little bit more things. But I was also running into a bug where like your followers would get stuck leaving the temple. And then a day wouldn't progress because you're like, there's no one here to collect things. And you go over to your temple and they're all like just like stuck and bunched up in the door.
Really? I never got that one.
I could fix it by going to like one of the other map areas, not running Crusade and then just coming back and they were back out, just all milling around, but then it would happen again.
Very weird.
Again, haven't had that happen since the patch came out.
Yeah, I mean, I ran into a big bug.
What was yours?
Which, I mean, I haven't found anybody else that has encountered a similar bug, so I frankly can't prove that it happened, but I swear to God it happened to me. I was on about day 17, I think like day 16 to 17, and I went on a crusade, and this was like at the height of my COVID too.
Sure.
So I was on a crusade,
I
was really tired in real life, so I paused the game while I was in a crusade, put my Switch into sleep mode, and I went and took a long nap.
Sure.
When I got up later and came back to continue playing the game, turned the Switch back on, unpaused the game, finished out the crusade with no problems. But when I got back to my cult from that crusade, time had still progressed.
Oh no.
Which, what I mean by that is time does still progress while you're on crusades, but it's not supposed to progress while the game is paused.
Right.
I had paused and slept the system and time was still progressing.
Yeah,
so I came back on day 29. 6 of my followers had died because they had all died of starvation. And all of the remaining ones were now dissenters because cult faith was so low.
Right.
There was no saving it. There was no way
Oh,
that
you
I
had
could
to restart completely?
I didn't technically restart the game, but I did lose every single follower.
Oh, wow.
Because the dissenters had been dissenting for so long that eventually, if you don't re-educate a dissenter, they'll just leave your cult. You know, they'll just literally go to the door and leave.
Yeah.
So the very few remaining dissenters that I still had, they just left. So I was literally at a point where I had 0 followers and I was on day 30 by that point.
Shit.
So I was like, great. I guess I'll start over from scratch.
Yeah.
But I have not encountered anybody else that's had that issue. I even asked on Reddit, like, hey, has anybody else encountered this?
Oh, really?
And everybody was like, no, that's a weird one.
Yeah, because I tested it too. Like, I think I wasn't in a crusade. I don't think I realized before when you were telling me about this that you were in a crusade. But I was just like in my commune and I paused the game. It like didn't save, didn't quit out and everything, and then shut it off to sleep and everything like that. And yeah, I came back and it seemed to be in the same place
since then,
still.
it has never happened to me again.
Just that one time.
But I'm still so nervous about it happening that I feel like I can't pause the game.
So you save and quit every time?
So I save and quit every time because I'm like, well, what if it happens again?
Yeah.
What if I pause and everybody dies?
Yeah. No, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Because I also had mine I would call a game-breaking one too, because I started playing on hard, got to like day very early, same about you, like it's probably about the same amount of time, a little less. And I was like, oh man, I think I'm playing too hard. Like I don't think I understand what I'm supposed to do in this well enough yet to be able to like really play it on the harder difficulty. I might need to restart and try again. Cause same thing, like I was losing faith super quick. I hadn't figured out ways to like really get it back up yet. Now I have, all's good. And so I restarted and I got to, I think, not even through the whole like tutorial. Like I was still in like where Ratal or the guy who like shows you around and how to start stuff. Yeah. He was still like doing that and giving me his intro missions. I went into the temple, did like my first sermon. And when I came out, it never gave me another quest. Oh. So it was like And I like days progressed. I
Wow.
left and like ran Crusades and came back. Nothing changed. So I was like, oh, I'm just like soft locked from progressing here, or hard locked, I guess, from progressing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have had to restart. Fortunately, I did keep my save of and started a new one. So I just went back to that one and then just was like, okay, I've learned new stuff and was able to get it to recover. So I'm still playing on that save file.
Okay.
But if I had not done that or written over my old one, yeah, I would have had to restart again.
Yeah.
So there was some there were issues.
There's some big ones.
Not just like, oh man, it runs a little crummy in this one specific place.
Well,
no, there were some like ones that would stop you from making progress. So.
And you just touched on one that apparently is still a pretty big problem on at least Switch and other consoles, is that I have heard tell from other people that if you have a lot of followers, like more than 20, like 30, 40, that the game lags so bad.
I can bet that. On Switch especially.
Oh, yeah, on Switch especially. Now, I'm not at a point where it's the kind of lag that I've experienced in Cozy Grove, for example, but now that I have 20 followers and a lot of assets in my cult, I have noticed a significant state of lag every time it hits a new day. So if I'm doing something in my cult at night and a new day starts, there will be like a pause where the game kind of freezes for like 5 to 10 seconds.
Oh, damn.
And then it finally decides, okay, you can play again.
Weird.
So
Okay,
I'm
so yeah,
definitely realizing that I don't want more followers because it will continue to impact the performance. So I'm not sure if that's one of the issues they fixed in the recent patch. I don't think so, because I'm still seeing some lag even at my level.
That's true, because that seems like that might be a bigger, patch along the way. Again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know.
But
I feel like making the game run smoother at later stages. I mean, it's like Civ 6. On Switch, you get to the industrial modern era, it is struggling.
You are done. Yep, that's
Other than that, though, I will say I haven't noticed a lot of like performance things on Switch. Sure, load times take a little bit longer than they would on a console or PC, sure, but like in the combat of the Crusades, I haven't noticed like laggy frame rate issues there.
Crusades I'm perfectly fine in. It's really just when you're in the cult and you have a lot of assets that you start to see some lag.
So it's, stuff to be aware of, I will say, I guess, as you get into it. Of just like, if you want to buy the game now, we've had people in our Discord ask us like, oh, should I get it yet? And we're like, maybe
give
wait,
it a couple
give it
weeks.
like another week or so to roll out another patches. I know this patch that they just released like 2 days ago that fixed the fall one. It fixed some of the bigger ones. But so that would be our thing to say. Like, yes, the game is super fun and everything, but
it is not without its problems.
Maybe wait a little bit if you want to jump on it.
But I mean, even with that said, Cult of the Lamb has already passed like 1 million downloads. 1
million downloads, yeah.
It's been very successful.
Hit, for sure.
Yeah, it's a big hit.
Which I feel like is I feel like this year has been the year that these games come out and each one gets like a big following behind it and like really blows up. I'm talking AAA, I'm talking indie. Like this year is just being good because we have Cult of the Lamb, we have Elden Ring, Stray, Horizon Forbidden West, and then even like in other multiverses and stuff like that. All these games, like for some reason, it seems like these games are coming out and all of them are like hitting just really well.
Yeah.
And so that's been really fun to see. And it's fun to see, especially in this indie world. I feel like maybe I'm just keeping up with them better this year than I have in the past years. But like to get like Stray to be kind of such a thing at the time, and now Cult of the Lamb is very much a thing.
I definitely agree with you because like even though it is way more niche and definitely didn't have as much of a broad-reaching impact, Neon White was still incredibly well received. Like critically speaking, people love that game and for good reason. So I definitely agree with you on the front of like, do I feel like 2022 has been an unusually good year for indie games? Yeah, I think it has been.
So,
and we're not even done yet.
Not even done.
More.
Still a few more months left to go this year. But I think that would be our recommendation for Cult of the Lamb right now. Incredibly fun game. Just go in for right now, at least for maybe again another week or two till you get another patch out. Just be aware.
Just
might
be
run
aware.
into some issues.
There's some bugs.
So
now, in the game's defense, the game-breaking bugs that both of us have encountered have not stopped us from playing.
Oh no, I've
We're
not
still
thrown
playing.
my Switch in frustration and said, nope, forget this game. I'm keep going right back to it.
Which I think that's a ring endorsement. If you're willing to play through the bugs and you still have a good time, it's a pretty good game.
For sure. And of course, another thing we haven't touched on yet, The soundtrack is so good.
The soundtrack is so good.
It's composed by Riverboy.
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
listening to it on Spotify. I broke my rule. I needed to go ahead and listen to it before I finished the game because it's just a damn delight. Yeah. It's honestly, I would describe it as like I feel like it would fit very well in like a Supergiant game. Like it feels like Darren Korb-esque soundtrack, kind of mixed with maybe like a Katana Zero, like a little bit more of electronic element to it, I would say, than Katana Zero, My Friend Pedro, kind of stuff like that, combined with Darren Korb's like Pyre, Bastion scores that he does like that. Like Knucklebones, the sound for the song that plays when you play the side game Knucklebones.
Yeah.
Sounds straight out of a like Darren Korb song. But then like the main theme and everything, Praise the Lamb, such a good song.
Such a good fun song.
Such a good song. So go check out the soundtrack by Riverboy on Spotify, wherever you listen to your soundtracks. It's
probably on Bandcamp.
It's probably out there on Bandcamp too for you to pay and download, which I will be doing for sure.
Nice.
So yes, fantastic game. Got some bugs. But give Cult of the Lamb a shot because it's another great indie game that we've been enjoying the hell out of. And
obviously, it's not full price. You know, this isn't a $70 game. I think it's $25.
$25, yeah.
I think.
No, it is.
Okay.
Because I remember I had some Nintendo points, so I got it for like 20.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
Like, hell yeah, let's go.
So yeah, don't be paying $70 for broken ass Bethesda games anymore. Pay $25 for a somewhat broken,
mildly broken,
but still really good game.
And there you have it, our ringing endorsement for Cult of the Lamb. But with that, I think that pretty much wraps up this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for letting us gab about another game that we love. And we'll be coming out with a new episode soon to grace your inbox of podcasts. So stick around for that. But until next time, everybody, I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We'll see you all next time.
Very good.
That was a great...
Unfortunately, I think that was our review.
I think that's our review.
Yeah.
Actually, everyone, before we go completely, we're getting behind our mics. This was not a first impression. This was a review. So this is our review of The Cult of the Lamb. Thank you. Have a good day.